Welcome back to the second installment of the Authentic Relationship series here on Passionate Pursuits. I'm your host, Bridget Corns, and these are conversations that we are centering around courageous truths, radical honesty, and revolutionary love. And today I have three very special guests that I would love for you to meet, and I'm just going to hand it right over to them to let them introduce themselves to you guys.
So I'm Jessie Thompson, and I currently reside in Wellsville in Allegheny County. I reside with my lovely girlfriend, Michelle, who's next to me. And I don't know, something special about me. I work at Alfred State, and there's not much more to share right now. Right now, I just changed careers to Alfred State University, and I'm currently learning all about financial aid and working with lovely students and looking forward to getting involved in the LGBTQ group on campus. I got to meet some of them today, and they currently have 70, at the time I was leaving, 70 new people that signed up to be a part of this community. So I'm excited for the future.
Yeah. How about you, Michelle?
That was difficult, Jess, because I don't have very much to say. My name's Michelle Libertone, and I am also currently residing in Wellsville, New York. And I work for a great company called Accord, and they do a lot of stuff to help low-income families. They do stuff to help with housing, domestic abuse, and they provide daycare for children, and it's a Head Start program. And so basically that's my introduction in a nutshell.
Important.
Beautiful.
I'm John Spicer. Sorry.
No, go for it.
I'm John Spicer. I also reside in Wellsville, approximately a block away from these two. And I retired about a year and a half ago from a career in science. I was the last 22 years I was doing research and monitoring air quality, and really enjoyed that. But I'm still kind of getting used to being retired. What else? I enjoy playing guitar in a band with these two. I've been in several bands. I also play bass, and my other hobby that I really love is backyard astronomy. So.
Beautiful. Yes, and your band's name is Casual Remix.
Correct.
Yes. So shout out to them if you guys want to check out their music. I definitely encourage that. So what is the reason that I have you guys on a podcast about authentic relationships?
Because I feel like our relationship as two, Michelle and I, and as three, Michelle, John, and I, and as Michelle and John as well previously, is very authentic, and we wouldn't be where we are today as friends if it weren't for the authenticity we all have decided is so important to pursue.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell me whatever you'd like to tell me about sort of the origin story of how this relationship came about?
Who wants to start?
Do you want me to just start from okay. The origin, I guess, of the story began with John and I. We were a couple for like 8 years. 8 years. 8 years.
Well, we met because I heard a recording of her singing at a local, actually at the library auditorium. And I said to my partner at the time, who is that? As it happened, we had met her the day before, or I had, Michelle at a McDonald's, and I couldn't get over her voice. So I was able to get in touch with her to find out if she'd like a guitar player, and she said yes. And the following year, we began just getting together to make music at like open mics and things. And that became Casual Reply, based on a lyric from a John Denver song, Rocky Mountain High, in fact. And we were in relationship for about 8 years. And do you want to pick it up there?
Yeah. And we had a really good relationship. John and I had a great relationship.
Yes.
Everything was really like open, honest. He and I talked about everything, anything. I think, yeah, I mean,
You're spiritual in the way that we see it.
yeah, definitely spiritual. I'd say that John is definitely a soulmate of mine, or that's the way I feel. He's a soulmate of mine. It was easy, like our relationship was easy communicating, like easy to communicate with each other in every way, basically. So then, like for a while, I guess both of us started thinking that maybe things were going downhill a little bit now looking back, right?
There was, yeah, some tension that last year, that you were unhappy a lot of the time, and I was just trying to figure out how to fix that. And yeah.
So, fast forward a little bit, I started, I used to watch a lot of different things like on YouTube and stuff. Like I was watching this person, who did ASMR. I don't know if you know what that is. It's, I usually watch it to fall asleep at night because it's soothing. And, there was this one person on there that was doing ASMR that was, transitioning. And I just listening to him just open up and everything just basically like opened my mind, like really opened my mind. Like a bunch of different things were happening around that time that it was just opening my mind to different things. I feel like like the universe kind of like sets things in your path that kind of prepare you to what's ahead for you. um I was just, I don't know, like I said, seeing things that were basically opening my mind or broadening my perspectives and my thoughts. And one evening we John and I decided that we were going to go to this open mic.
Oh, John convinced you to
Yeah,
go.
actually, he actually convinced me to go to the open mic. I really did not want to go. Like, I just didn't want to go because I was always complaining, like, I don't want to go. It's a 40-minute drive from where we are. And I was just like, I just like to be home, and I don't want to drive back 40 minutes at like 10 o'clock at night and be tired the next day and everything. But he convinced me, okay, we're going to go. And so we went. And while we were there, that's when I met Jessie, but it wasn't necessarily a meeting.
It wasn't
per
much.
se.
There wasn't much conversation.
No, she got up to perform her couple songs, and basically what happened was,
You looked at me.
yeah, we looked at each other, basically.
And I took about 3 minutes into the song before I looked at you because I knew you were looking at me. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna look up and my life's gonna change. So I did look up, and we do have it on video, and you can see the moment that I looked up, and then I hardly looked away from that point.
Yeah. It was like instant connection.
We kind of we started slowly talking afterwards.
Well,
We also, the other weird part is, so she got up and she sang a Brandy Carlisle song. And if you know anything about me, Brandy Carlisle is my favorite artist.
but you had sang a song that was partially Brandy
Partially.
Carlisle.
It was Alicia Keys and Brandy Carlisle. Well, it wasn't a full-on Brandy
It
Carlisle.
doesn't matter. It was still had Brandy in it.
Either way, I'd sang kind of a Brandy Carlisle song, 50% Brandy.
Okay.
And then these two get up there, and they'd already prepared to do a Brandy Carlisle song. Well, nobody else I know knows Brandy Carlisle enough to perform a Brandy Carlisle song, especially in this area. So they got up and performed a Brandy Carlisle song, and I think my response out loud was, "No fucking way." And I was just like hooked. And so we ended up being able to do an extra song that night because not enough people came. And I chose at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to do an actual Brandy Carlisle song now. And so I got up there and did that. And then they turned around and she had convinced John, we got to do another Brandy song.
Oh my gosh.
And so they came up and did another Brandy song. So I was like, all right, well, at the very least, like this person and I are going to be friends.
I mean, we basically had like a very short conversation, it was just kind of like,
Well, it was basically you ran up to me and said, that was an awesome song. You did great. And then she missed the lyrics on the one Brandy song. And I ran up to her and I was like, it's okay. Nobody's going to know this but me. And that was about the extent of our conversation.
Wow.
I mean, John was enthralled with Jessie's guitar. And you went over and you talked to her about her guitar.
And I knew nothing about my guitar.
Well, I noticed something about Jessie up there, simply that it was like she's a 100 megawatt light bulb. You know, I mean, there was just this energy.
I'm
that
gonna
I
cry.
felt light. And so that I noticed, but then yes, the guitar. And so I had to find out about the guitar.
Which I knew absolutely nothing about because I had just been gifted it like a
Oh
week
my God, that's fantastic.
prior by my ex-girlfriend's uncle. And he had made it and had sent it to me. And so I know nothing about this guitar.
So I was the one to go over and talk to Jessie.
And not me.
And not her.
Huh.
She had back. Meanwhile, I'm like peeking around as he's asking questions about the guitar. I was like, yeah, but
So
that,
yeah, so how did this unfold from there?
well, so then we left, like parted ways that night, and
You
I got in my car. So my ex-girlfriend and I had driven separately because we had other things going on beforehand. So she had already headed out, and I packed up at the end of the open mic and went to my car, and I pulled out my phone to check to see if I had any messages or anything. And I pulled up Facebook because that's just like, like instinct.
As
Like,
you do.
as we do. And I like popped Facebook really quick. And the first thing that came up was people you may know. And she was the first one that popped up. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, okay. I hear you, universe. And I hit add friend.
And then I got the friend request like when we got in the car, and I was like, holy shit, she friend requested me. So I was like, yes.
And then we started just casually talking at first. Like, actually, we say that Lucy, my older Westie that's the rescue, we say that she was kind of the icebreaker. She was the in, because I
Mhm.
found out how much Michelle loves dogs, and she has a
Hi.
Yorkie. And
She's-
this is Lucy.
She was just literally
Hi,
calling it my leg when we
Lucy.
said that.
And so Lucy, being Lucy, is adorable and she's hilarious, and she's got great videos with like dancing and cooing. And she commented on one of Lucy's posts, and I was like, oh, you like Lucy, do you? And so I went through and found like the funniest videos and cutest pictures of Lucy, and I just
Oh my
started
God.
tagging her. I tagged her in them just to start a conversation.
So Lucy was the draw.
Yeah, so really, she's here for Lucy. But yeah, no, so that's kind of what started the conversation. And I mean, it got open and deep quickly. Like, I just felt
really
comfortable.
fast. Yep.
And
Yeah.
just really talking about who we are, what we've come from, experiences. She confided in me about some information that she had come across with a parent. And so she confided me in that. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's like awesome that you trust me like this already. And I took that to heart and really appreciated it. And so it kind of went from there. And I had to go away that weekend. So we got minimal talking, but I knew that when I came back the following weekend, that John and Michelle were going to be performing in a show at the place where we did the open mic. And it was Country Tunes, the country show, I
Yeah, the
think.
country
Yeah.
show. Had I already said anything to you about Jessie at that point?
I was trying to remember,
I-
and there was something.
I mean, we were both talking about Jessie, definitely. You and I were talking about Jessie.
Mhm.
Both of us, I mean, he felt like there was something special about her, and so did I. And but that day at the Palmer where we went to go perform, Jess had come, right?
Yeah, I had come. I had actually rushed to get there because I thought that I wasn't going to make it in time.
And she brought me a
A rose quartz.
rose quartz crystal. And my sister was there and my daughter was there. And but John had gone backstage to tune his guitar, and Jess came up to me to bring me the rose quartz crystal, and we talked for a second, and then we hugged each other.
Mhm.
Like just instantly we were just like, yeah.
You hugged me, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, I did.
And she picks on me now because I gave her that rose quartz and said, like, I'm giving this to you because I just wanted to say, like, I appreciate you trusting me with part of your life story. And this is my way of showing like compassion and love and an open heart. And I'm glad you shared your heart with me. And I mean, that is true. But she called me out on my bullshit later because I was the one that basically kept tiptoeing. Because I was like, oh yeah, like we can be really like great friends. We can be platonic friends. And she was like, yeah, okay, I can't do platonic. And it was like my cop out because I was still scared.
But still
Yeah.
at that point, basically I went backstage to John and I was like, I told John, she gave me this quartz crystal. And John, I don't know, you say you don't remember saying this, but you did say this. I don't know if you remember now, but he said to me, I see her in your future. And I was like, no, don't say that. Don't say that, because I didn't think that there was any way that I could have him in my future if I had her in my future.
I was feeling it,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
I said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't really long after that I think that I basically was pretty honest with you.
You're always honest.
Yeah, I was always honest with
You were honest as it was all unfolding.
as much as I could be, as much as I knew and everything like that. And he and I had kind of a conversation too about I remember us having a conversation about all that stuff. Transgender and all that kind of stuff. We had a conversation about that. Transgender people, gay people, just all kinds of stuff like that. He and I were having conversations, and then like at one point he kind of said to me, yeah, I like Jess a lot, blah blah blah. Remember?
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I like Jess a lot, I like her as much as you do. And
In a different way, yeah.
no, but remember, and I said to him something like, well, do you want to kiss her? And he was like, no.
It's not like that, but
And I was like, well,
we don't like
it's not the same.
because I was, before that point, I had never even thought for a second about dating a woman ever. I don't think ever in my life. It never crossed my mind. I don't know if it was just due to the fact that we're all, as females, we're all conditioned to believe that we're supposed to be with a male. And I mean, I guess it just never crossed my mind, and I really wasn't attracted to any female in my sphere. I mean, I think I thought that certain women were cute, like on TV, like certain people, but I didn't equate that to me wanting to be in a relationship with a female. And I didn't know, it wasn't like I was walking around in my area where I saw somebody that I thought that I wanted to be in a relationship with until I saw Jessie. And then it was like a light bulb click on. And basically that was that. I was really literally so
It wasn't that quick.
Yeah, I was literally so confused because I was like talking to myself in my head, like, why do I want to kiss this person? Why do I want to be close with her? Like, I was just, all these questions like swimming around in my head, and I was trying to make sense of it all because, like I said, that never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
So
in
it was a lot of,
hindsight, like how do you make sense of that?
now I can just say that I think that I was probably always open to that, but I mean I was always pre I don't know how to
I think you always had the capability to love another, love a
Yes,
woman, but I
but-
think the lessons that you learned and the way that you evolved allowed you to be able to recognize that you could love a woman and opened you up to
yeah, what was happening
the
before that
experience.
point basically was opening me up to the experience. So I wasn't closed off to the idea of it when I saw her.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, the universe prepares us or shows us things in order for us to see and know these things. So, I like with John, I evolved a lot with John too, because I mean, obviously I evolved a lot while I was throughout our relationship. I think sorry, Jess. I think he and I both evolved a lot.
Well, you had a breaking open when your dad passed about it. What was it? A year before?
It was right before you and I met. It was like he died in September and I met you in December.
That's right.
So that was, like going back further to that, that was an opening me up to see him too, because I mean, the way that I look at my relationships evolving, my first husband I had, he was abusive, and he's the father of my son, and I left him, and then I met it was well after that I met my daughter's father, and he was like, I say that I was like, I made my steps up to where I was supposed to be. Yeah. Like to the people that I was supposed to be with. Like I feel like if I wasn't attracted to Jess, John would be the person that I would probably still be with. But Jess is my person though. She's my person though. Like I don't know, when I met her, I knew she was my person. Just without, like, I don't know. I knew she was my person. So.
Needed a box of tissues warning for this one.
Oh, well, we spent a lot of time crying when we first
Oh my God.
together.
We used to literally just bawl all the time about each other. Constantly. All the time. We were bawling about each other.
I was trying to remember how long it was, let's say after the that country show, that we ended up going to the restaurant, and
it wasn't that long.
It wasn't that long.
It was literally like
the very end of October, very beginning of November.
Because the country show was in October.
Yeah, so we met October 7th. We know that.
And the country show was in October.
Yeah.
A couple weeks later. And then it was probably the beginning of November.
I think it was the very beginning of November.
Somewhere there. John and I and Jess went out to we went out to get some food somewhere, and we all were having all of us were just having like open conversations together. That's amazing. John basically gave us his blessing, kind of, if you want to call it that. Like
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And it was not easy. It broke my heart.
Go ahead.
I've been married 3 times, and Michelle was my 4th long-term relationship, and I've been in love twice. The first one was my first wife. She was my high school sweetheart, and the second one for me was Michelle. And I say that openly, and to her and to Jessie, because it's simply the truth. And it's just, she is her for me, but not for me, anymore, and so I've gotten over, it took about 6 months, and I got over the every night crying about it. And I'm having a lot of trouble being single. But these two are, I wish you could see my bracelet. I have two beads on, on each of these. One is Michelle, one is Jessie.
You can put it up like this.
Yeah, I can see it.
See it. These
Can you
See the blue and the
color?
yellow?
Yep.
these two colors.
And the reason I point that out too, I mentioned I do backyard astronomy. There's a double star called Alberio that is blue and yellow. And so that's sort of a significance also that ties it together. They're my double star.
Oh, that's beautiful. How did you just it blows my mind to hear you guys all talking so openly and sharing so honestly about this process, and obviously we can hear that it hasn't been easy, but I mean it is incredible the amount of compassion and emotional intelligence that it must have taken to walk this out so openly and honestly, like the entire process of it. It's just incredible. And I mean, how to what, I don't even know how to ask this, but how, what do you credit with getting you to the point where when you saw this and when you all recognized it, you were capable of doing the hard thing?
I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that each one of us is significantly evolved, spiritually evolved and emotionally evolved. And I mean, like you said, it wasn't necessarily an easy thing. It was really difficult because it was so hard. I mean, for me, it was extremely hard because I care so much about John. He's one of my favorite. I mean, like these are my two people. Like I love them both, and I still love him. Of course, he's been a lot to me, and I hated that I was the person that had to hurt him. Like I just hated that I was the person. After everything that he and I went through, I hated that I was the person that had to break his heart. It broke my heart to break his heart. And I still cry about it sometimes, don't I, Jess? I still cry about it because I feel so horrible that I was the one who broke his heart, because I love him so. I still just love him so much. He's a big piece of me, and he's a big part of my life. And he's just part of my soul. He's part of my soul too.
Yeah.
So it really literally killed me to hurt him in that way. But when it comes down to it, I have to say, like, am I going to do and live a life for me or for somebody else? So, you always have to choose yourself. No matter what, you always have to choose yourself, even if it hurts somebody else. And I think that the relationship that we had already built, he and I, was able to withstand, thank goodness, because I really didn't want to lose him.
I think it's the fact that you were open and honest throughout your entire relationship and were vulnerable with each other and had those hard conversations along the way that were kind of preparing you to be able to have the hardest conversations that you've ever had in your relationship. And I think the other part of it is we're evolved, but we're also all people that live from our hearts and believe that being vulnerable and sharing emotions is important, even if it's hard, because it's very much who we are. And like, I know that John's a feeler, even if he doesn't, he's only vulnerable with select handful of people, but we are two of those people. But we all have emotions and they all deserve to be felt and seen. I think we all recognize that and appreciate that. And I think we all automatically loved each other. I've always felt that I've loved John from the start. For some reason, there was something. And we've kind of established that it's because we are all connected. in this soul family.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like he's my person in a way too, in a certain regard. And so I love him as if he's a person of mine.
Yeah, I feel like that's there. It's my family.
So, and I mean, I've always believed in this idea of like you create your own reality.
Yeah.
And what you choose to foster comes to you. Not not freely, but what you choose to put your effort and love and work into fosters the kind of life that you want to live, that you've dreamt of living. And for me, that's always been living authentically and living with the people that I love and care about and that give that back to me.
Yeah.
One of the tough things for me, that's one of the things that made it tough. My family wanted me to throw them out, you know, and friends. It never crossed my mind. You know, we lived together.
Yep. John
Yeah.
let Jessie move. John let Jess move into the house
6 months.
before we found our own place. He let her move into the house. Yeah.
I didn't understand why people would suggest that. And some were pretty nasty about it, even after they did find their place and moved out. It was, have they taken all their stuff yet? You know, I got a lot of that. And, you know, it was as if I was supposed to harbor these really, you know, negative feelings about them and stuff. And, you know, but I'd like to say, I started dating briefly this woman early this year, and she was having a terrible time with the fact that I still had stuff of theirs in my house, you know. So she was pushing me to get it out, you know, and all that, and didn't understand how I could be still making music with them, and or with Michelle at the time. And what was interesting, her daughter is a therapist, and her daughter said to her mom, the reason that John was able to move on was because Jessie can give Michelle something that he knows that he can't. And I hadn't put that together. I just knew that there was a finality about it that I could notice subconsciously, but that was an absolute truth, you know.
Yeah.
I think that was another part of the reason I could accept it. Somehow I knew, you know, Jessie can give to Michelle what she needs and I can't.
Yeah.
You know, entirely. So
What do you, this may be a really hard question to answer, but what do you think that something is?
me, my knee-jerk reaction is it's Michelle's next step. She described moving from one level to another, you know, and so to answer that question, that's the first thing that comes to mind. She is exactly the right person for Michelle now. And you know, and Michelle is so honest, she can't not, you know, move in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So this may be a question that Michelle can field as well when she comes back, but I'm curious.
I just let my dog yell.
I'm curious what, if you can even put words around this or put a finger on it, what made the quality of this relationship different or heightened, or however you want to describe it? How did you know?
We're just so, I don't know. Jess and I are just so just absolutely so compatible with each other. I don't think that we just have, I don't know, what is it, Jess? We have so much that's so similar. We're very similar, but not similar.
Like weird similarities, like strangely connected in multiple facets. Like all these connections we started seeing as we started talking, we're like, what? Like something as simple as like all of her family's names start in M, and all of my grandmother's family's names start in M. And I was like, that's just an odd thing to share in common.
It was like birth dates
like
lined up.
there were a lot of birth dates that lined up. It was,
my mom's name is Mary. Jessie's mom's name is Mary.
My grandma was a custodian, her grandma was a custodian, and her dad was an artist. My dad was an artist. Both of our dads have passed away from cancers.
Mm.
And so we're like, there's just like a lot of weird, we have a lot of weird connections, a lot of pieces
But it's not
that
just
we can
that,
talk about.
yeah.
But then it's also just like, in general, I've never felt so comfortable with somebody.
Yeah.
I was like instant. I was like, oh, I can like just be
We're just,
be
it's
myself from
just,
the get
yeah,
go.
just easy to be ourselves, like completely ourselves. And I don't know, we don't ever have, I don't feel like we've ever had an argument, not once since we got together.
No,
Like,
we talk about feelings, like if like a feeling is hurt or something like that, but we talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's never been like,
and I think that too, like we're just so supportive of each other. That's like one thing that I have been really truly missing, I think, with past relationships, is just the complete support. We're just so supportive of each other, really. Like anytime we need each other for some kind of comfort, or I mean something to that effect, we're just very in tune with each other and very supportive of each other.
I think a big piece of it too is that from the get go, it was just like being able to sense each other
From far
from
distances away.
like distances. Like when we were initially starting to get together, we weren't able to be with each other constantly. She was still living in Wallsville. I was at the time kind of bouncing between my mother's house, 30 minutes away, and I was living temporarily also at my best friend's house at the time in Olean still. So we're talking 45 minutes away. So we weren't easily accessible to each other at first, but I just remember we would talk about how we could literally feel each other. I was like, I can literally feel like when something's up from far away. Like I can feel like when you're sad, I can feel like when you're happy. And I was like, I literally can feel it inside. And that was a lot of like connecting for us. Like we couldn't hug, we couldn't touch, but I was like, but I can still feel you. And it was very, very like literal.
Yeah. Yeah. So my question now becomes, is this a kind of relationship that someone can nurture, or is this something that someone just will or will not find within a lifetime?
I feel like it's something that somebody will or will not find in a lifetime. I feel like it's a once in a lifetime type thing. Like you're gonna find it or you're not. It's something that's, I don't even know. I don't know how you would nurture it. It was just instantly there. Like for us, this was just instantly there. So I don't know how you would nurture that to be that way. I don't think that that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think you can create it. I think if you have it and you find it, you can nurture that.
Yeah.
And because I think it's something that involves awareness. It involves doing a lot of hard, dirty work within yourself.
Yeah, on yourself.
Yeah.
To be able to reach a point where it's like you've stripped your walls and you've basically almost in a way like tossed all caution to the wind, and you're like, I want to manifest this kind of scenario for my life, and that's all I know. I don't know how it's going to happen, but this is what I want. And then it's like you kick open the door almost, so to speak, and it's planted in your lap.
Yeah. Were either of you, I mean, but Jess, were you in a relationship at the time as well?
I was.
So
I was
neither of you was like looking
available
for that. Like it wasn't even, yeah.
No, it wasn't a thought. It wasn't literally.
So
was
it's not
a
like you were
thought in my
single and
mind.
you were trying to manifest this. You were both in
No.
relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Her and John were 8 years. I was in a relationship for 9.5 years at the time.
And it wasn't even a thought in my mind. In fact, he and I had talked about extensively, because I thought that he was actually my person before I met Jess.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that he was as close to my person as I was gonna ever find. He was it.
Yeah.
He wasn't exactly my puzzle piece, but he was as close to me as close to what I thought was my person as I was going to find. And he and I had talked about it extensively, actually, because I was like, there's no way I'm going to find anybody better than you. You know, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to find anybody better than you, or anybody that's going to, and even now, if I had to say, like, there would be no way that I would find a man better than John.
Yeah.
If it was a man, there would be no way that I would find a man better than John, because there's no man in this world that compares to him. Like, honestly, you know, that's exactly what I say to you still. If there's
She called me her pinnacle male.
it's I mean, there's like literally no man, because no man could compare to him. It's because of his heart. It's because of who he is inside. And you know, not many people experience it, that type of, you know, situation. So I was like, there's no way. Was like, literally, there's no way I'm going to find anybody besides you. Who am I going to find other than you? And then you know, just out of nowhere comes Jessie. Like, and I wasn't looking and I definitely had no idea. I didn't know my person would be a woman. So that, you know, that's
Surprise.
yeah, definitely.
Plot
We
twist.
Michelle and I both grew in the, I mean, I think it was meant to be, if that sort of thing is reality. I was at a point where I was actually reading a book on how to become somebody else.
Other than himself.
Yeah. And she saw it. This is our first time rehearsing. You know, I had my guitar, she was going to sing, and she saw that book and she saw right through me. She said, why?
Why are you reading that book?
Yeah.
Because you don't need that book. You're great just the way you are. Like,
and
he was great the way he was.
So, but it was all about, with my family, very English family, appearances. They mustn't do that. Wouldn't look good, you know, and all this. And she was exactly the opposite. I learned so much. And I, in a way, I feel like we reached the point where I learned all the lessons that I was going to, and now, you know, it's time. So in some sense,
I mean, I
that
still
feels
think
true.
that you learned some lessons from me beyond our actually, like, romantic relationship.
A lot.
I was gonna say, I feel like this whole experience has been full of
Learning,
lessons.
yeah, for all three of us, really.
Mhm.
In ways that we could be, like, you know, three people that really, like, have been able to seriously get open with each other and foster a great relationship. We're, you know, I feel like we're best friends.
One thing just occurred to me, and I've said it, but in the interest of total disclosure, if Jessie had been a guy, I don't know how I would have reacted. If it would have been the same, I can't say, and I'm glad I don't have to, you know, think about it. But I don't think I would have been able to, you know, invite that person into the house like I did, and we all lived together, and we had a great time. The place was alive, you know. We'd have dinner together at night. They had their room, and I had mine. And Eleanor, you know, it was a very positive environment, I think.
It was positive. It was full of chaos, but full of love. I mean, it was 3 dogs, a cat, and then John got a dog. So for at the tail end there, it was 3 little dogs, a cat, and a big dog.
Oh my gosh.
Plus us.
Plus us and John, and Josh's son at the time was still living at the house.
And
so.
Al. So we had a lot of people in the house with us. And
I was getting a lot of pressure from Josh that no, Dad, no.
yeah,
You know,
he wanted
even
us
he
gone. He
couldn't.
wanted us to get out too. He was
So,
like, but I mean, John, you know, I just want to say that I feel like you evolved in that manner, because before that point, I don't know if you would have been able to stand your ground the way that you did with everybody. you actually used your, you were being truthful to yourself
Mhm.
beyond what he had been able to be before in his life with his family.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are times in your life when, well, even when you and I began, and because of the age difference, there's about 19 and a half years.
About 19
And,
years,
her-
between him and I.
The families were not in favor of it. And
Mm.
for about 3 days, we broke up over that. And I took a turn. I said, that's it. Bam. There are times in your life when you simply have to turn around, you face the wind, the music, whatever it is, and you do what you know is right. And that's what I also did in this while I was allowing and enjoying having Jessie and Michelle, as painful as it was. Um, it just, there was no one that could turn me around on that. I knew it was the right way. So,
But yeah, that's why I say, like, for me, I say that I'm like the template breaker, because I've done so many things. Like, I've left my abusive relationship. I left my relationship with my husband, with my ex-husband, Elle's dad, for John, basically, because I know that I'm like, I don't know, I evolve, and I've
You
just
fostered that
learned and
evolution.
I learned and I grew, and I and it helped me, like I said, it helped me reach it helped me reach my person. So I say that I'm a template breaker, because I go against the grain of everything, and I stand up, and I face whatever it is that comes my way, instead of shying away from the things that come my way. I do what I feel is right in my heart to do. So I was with John. He was 20 years older than me. People did not understand that, but they didn't have to. And then I met Jess, and that was a really scary thing, going to my family and telling them, beyond that.
I feel like at that point you're like conditioned them, like
Yeah, I think I probably did condition them with all the stuff that I had gone through and done. I was basically, I went to my family, and I told them all, that I had met Jessie, and that I was
like
happy, and
right before the holidays too.
yeah, and but my family was great. My family was absolutely great, though. All of them were great. And the great thing is too, is that they all still love John.
Yeah.
My family all still loves John, and he comes to our family functions still with us, because my family absolutely loves John. And
Yeah,
they love Jessie, and they love John, and we can all go and hang out at my family's house, and yeah.
so actually that's the amazing thing too, is that both of our families have
Mm.
been incredibly amazing throughout all of this too. Like Michelle said, like her family open and evolved enough to be accepting of me, but also still to not shut John out.
Yep, they all are like, they love John. And that's another thing, like, so many people do not get this, or don't understand that you can be friends with and be close with somebody that you were in a relationship with prior. People do not understand it. It's been a little bit difficult with people around us not understanding it, and people that we knew even before we met.
Say people that we all know, but we never knew we didn't know each other at the time, but we have a similar circle of people that we related to, and that we connected with through a lot of our music.
Yeah,
mostly.
But so they just cannot understand how us three can be friends the way that we are. John lives literally like I don't know, down the road. Like, how many houses would you say it is that way? Like,
it's about a block.
About a block down the street. We literally moved down the block from him. I mean, I think
intentionally too. We were trying to stay close. We were
trying to find a place that was close, but this place that we got, like, it literally just fell in our laps. It opened up. The day that it went on the market is the day that we saw it, and the next day it was ours.
Oh, no, correction. It never made it to the market.
No, it didn't really make it to the market. She actually put the for sale sign in the front yard that day. We called her that night. It was ours the next day.
Wow.
Yeah,
That was after a lot of house hunting and crying and frustration. And I was like,
yes.
we're never gonna
We're never
find
gonna
a
find a
house.
place, and it was literally down the street. It was just literally down the street.
Oh.
And so now we do music. We have our music together.
It's getting busier and busier.
Yeah, it's so busy.
Yeah,
and
I
we
saw
have a
your
lot of-
schedule. Yeah.
And any, you know, given evening when it's like, I do not want to sit here alone, you know, I've got my dog, but I'll, hey guys, what you doing? You know, you mind if I come over? You know,
Or we like if even like last night we were out to dinner with my sister, and I don't know, you called, right? And my sister said, "Come on over, John." My sister was like, "Come over, John. We're getting ready to have you can come over and have coffee and dessert with us." And so John came over to the restaurant and we all ate dessert and
we're gonna do something like that tonight, I hope.
oh, are we?
Are we doing okay?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I know that a lot of people would tend to want to ask the question, okay, well, how do I find that? But being where I am and having evolved spiritually as well, I think the key question is not how do I find that, but how do I foster within myself the fertile soil to prepare so that the universe can bring that to me.
Gosh. So I think I can speak from like what I was doing at the time before I met Michelle. So as we said, like I was in a relationship at the time. I was in a relationship for 9.5 years. I was not happy for probably 7 of those years. And it was a lot of just coming into complacency with it. And COVID actually really put me into a nosedive with my anxiety. And instead of letting it control me, I decided to fight back. And how I knew to fight back against it, besides taking medication, was to write and was to find space for myself mentally and physically. So that included yoga and meditation and getting back into reading, something that I love. I have an English degree, but I had lost reading. And so it gave me that time to actually pick up books again. And I remember my best friend is a huge reader as well. And she lives in Colorado. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, why haven't we done this before? We can read together from afar. And so we would choose a book. And I think we went through 10 to 12 books in the course of just like maybe 8 months. And one of those books that kind of flipped everything for me and really got me working on myself at like a high functioning, fast pace, was Untamed. And we talked about this a bit.
Yeah.
And I picked it up. My friend had already read it. And she was like, I'll read it again. It's that great. And you're going to love it. So I picked it up. We were like, okay, let's start reading it. I could not put it down. I said, I'm sorry, Holly, but I'm going to read this entire book in one night. I'm sorry, I'm blowing through, and then I will come back and I'll do my second read and we'll do it together then. And so I just remember reading just the introduction of the story of Glennon talking about them at the zoo.
Yep.
And them witnessing the cheetah that had been trained to be complacent, essentially, to live in complacency. But then when they set that cheetah back into its space where it could roam more freely, even though it was caged, that cheetah still looked sad, even though it was more free. And it's because it had been trained to basically just survive. I was not thrive, just basically survive in what it's been told. This is home. This is your box. This is where you stay. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm complacent and I'm living in the box that I've self-created for myself at this point.
Yep.
and it doesn't have to be this way. I said, there's so many things that I love that I've stifled, that I've given up, and that I've lost myself because I've decided that this box is it. And that was such an awakening time for me, just reading those words and being like, well, yeah, I do want better. I do deserve better. I do want these things in life, and I didn't need to settle. And so once I started having even those thoughts, it opened up an entire dialogue within my own mind, and forced me to get real with myself about what I really did want. And that's when I say I started like manifesting. I started writing the things I want, the things I love. I started actually truly writing poetry. And it's like I came alive again. And when I came alive again, my light began to shine again. And that's what I equate to the megawatt light bulb that John could see and feel when he saw me open mic. And it's because I had turned that on again. I had found who I was.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's mainly what people probably need to do is basically you need to be in touch with yourself. You need to be honest with yourself and in touch with yourself. And for me, I think that I had been doing that throughout my life. That's what I mean by breaking templates, following my own inner voice, following what I think is the right thing to do, even when like my family completely freaked out about John or anything. I was like, I know what I'm doing. I have to, this is what I have to do for me. And so you have to go based on yourself. You have to go into yourself and be truthful and honest with yourself. And you said work on yourself and let yourself be you. Let yourself be completely who you are. And not worry about what other people think and not worry about what's going on around you. It's all to do with you and what's inside you. Yeah. I think that's how we were able to actually meet each other and then recognize each other as this thing, because we were so before I met Jess too, I was working on myself in physical ways too. But long before that, I've always gone the path of trying to always be truthful and honest to myself and try to follow what's inside, but bring it outside of myself. Like, I don't eat meat. And that's because that's something that I feel I don't want to do that for the animals. And so that's another thing that I do that's kind of against the grain in a way of to what everybody around me is like. I do that. It's against the grain. I mean, I live in this tiny little town that's like Hickville, and there's farmers everywhere, and people do not understand people not eating meat. So I'm just saying, like, you have to be true to yourself and be truthfully who you are and let that shine out for other people.
Yeah. Aw.
This is hell.
Yeah, time. This
Yeah.
is Eleanor.
Hi.
But we're doing a podcast right now, so
I tend to look at the big picture, and the two of them have talked about, what's inside and that. And my thing is, if I were to suggest to someone how to create that soul you were talking about, practice discernment of what the universe is asking you to do or telling you to do. You have to practice before you get good at it. But then the most important thing is saying yes, whatever it is. And that can be super tough, but it's invariably, it is the right thing to do. So those two things, you practice the discernment, and then when you get it, you say yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I call like jumping off the cliff.
Yeah,
You're jumping off the cliff, because you know that this is what's right for you, and you're just gonna let whatever is supposed to happen. So you're jumping off the cliff, and you're saying yes to what's in front of you.
yes is the answer.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
I look at it from the lens of Glennon, and where she says, "Go towards what is warm."
That's good.
That's beautiful. I don't think we could have ended at a better place. And I am deeply, deeply appreciative that you guys are all here and that you would share so honestly with us. I hope that your words and what you've shared are going to impact so many people and give so many people freedom and help them hear their truths, most importantly. So deep gratitude to all of you. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thanks for
Thanks
asking.
for having us.